Hello, Blenders, and welcome to episode number 305 of ReelBlend, a podcast that just interviews people, no gimmicks. On this week's show,
Nice.
We're doing a summer movie preview. Is 2024 a stacked year for the summer box office season? Well, stick around here and find out. My name is Sean O'Connell. I'm the managing editor at Cinema Blend and a co-host of the ReelBlend podcast, joined, as always, by Jake Hamilton of Fox 32 in Chicago. Hello, Jakey. How are you, sir?
For people looking for some context from that joke, I was just the old man on my front porch shaking my fist at the sky because I had heard of another interview program that revolves around doing something wildly crazy while the interview is taking place. And I vented my frustration that we can't just interview cold ones. Yes. I just don't understand why we just can't interview people anymore. Like why it has to be like, oh, I'm going to interview them while we're skydiving. Or I'm going to interview them while like we're diving with sharks. Like, why can't we just have why are good conversations not enough anymore?
I picture Jake. Jake always talks about how one day he might, put everything away and then go teach journalism somewhere, which I think he would be very good at. But I picture him now, with an audience of young students going, it used to be you could just ask a good question.
You could ask fucking questions.
Yeah. Now you need to play the wings.
This is interviewing 101. Start with the questions. Now come up with a gimmick in 102.
I'm not opposed to bits. Bits.
If it's good, it's good.
Some of my most successful junket opportunities have included bits. Yeah. So I'm not frowning on the bits.
But there's a difference between, look, I've done bits. I've but there's a difference.
You danced with Angelina Jolie.
Right. There's,
you had a chocolate bar in your pocket for Paul Rudd.
Yeah. There's, but there's a difference between that and also all the bits that we're talking about were things that I gave up doing like 10 years ago.
Sure.
There's a difference between like, hey, I've got 5 minutes and I'm going to use one of my minutes to do like a fun little thing versus my entire career is going to revolve around an idea.
I will say that the king of all like gimmick interview shows is Hot Ones. I think, of course, is the most ubiquitous one. And that one is kind of brilliant because I speak
from jealousy.
Yeah. Like the spicy wing, like you see people break down and you're like, this is the most real we've seen this celebrity in any interview because they're just like, I'm in so much pain that I can't even put up a wall. Like you're just getting raw me.
But I guess for me, it just comes down to the fact that like, he's a great interviewer.
He's really good.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
At the end of the day. And so that's sort of my where my frustration comes from is that like, I don't watch his work for like the wing bit. I watch it because he actually really does ask great questions. And it's just one of those things. It's just like, why are the questions not enough? Again, I feel like I seriously am the old man on my porch shaking my fist at the sky. But
I want to single out a good friend of ours, Josh Horowitz, who has an excellent podcast called Happy, Sad, Confused. And several years ago now, at this point, we got a chance to go to Bruce Springsteen's house. Tremendous name drop.
I forgot about that, you asshole.
Yeah, Josh got to go to that.
I completely forgot that you did that.
But the reason why I bring this up is that Josh, as part of his Happy, Sad, Confused podcast, would often get the celebrities to do the 3 different faces for photographs. And I got to watch him explain the concept to Bruce Springsteen and then try to pull off the faces. And Bruce's face, all 3 of Bruce's faces looked very, very similar. He was not into the bit.
I always that's such a great concept for a bit, if only because it's a great way to get past the wall of like, hey, no pictures with, sometimes whenever you do a junket, you really want a picture with someone. And there's always that awkward moment of like, am I allowed to? Or the publicist is going to say something? Is the studio going to say something? But if you make it part of your interview bit and you're like, hey, this is part of the thing, it's a great way to do that. But and also too, to our point, Josh Horowitz I think is one of the best interviewers today
for a long time.
He's been doing it for a very long time. Which is why
in 2024 we're going to introduce ReelBlend. Great opportunity just to get our pictures. If you're watching us on YouTube, you missed something very, very funny before, which is Jake's 2 dogs, I think, realized the show was starting, and Daenerys was like, I'm out of here. I'm not listening to this shit.
I can't do
I can't get out of here
anymore.
Yeah. And Kevin's not here. So let me
For the audio
Gabe.
Listeners.
Yeah. Gabe Kovac is sitting in Kevin's spot, who Kevin could not be here today. Hey, Gabe, how are you doing?
I'm good. You know, it's funny. It's just the shtick of the show at the beginning of, as always, joined by Jake Hamilton and Kevin McCarthy.
Sure.
Last week I filled in for Jake.
Right.
So not always. And
Yeah,
then this
it's
week,
not always.
This week I'm here for Kevin. So yeah.
Rather infrequently, actually. So if you're watching us on YouTube, thank you very much for joining us. Head down, give us a like and a subscribe. Join us here each week. We drop new episodes on Friday mornings. Of course, for audio listeners, if you want to see the video format, we're at youtube.com/ReelBlend Podcast and available all different places your audio needs are met. If you would like to join ReelBlend Premium, it gets you a couple different things, starting with an ad-free version of the show, a song constructed by Jake Hamilton, and a newsletter from me every other Friday, including this Friday. So check the description for information on where you can sign up. So it's April, and I'm heading off to
crazy.
CinemaCon next week. Oh, do you want to know what's really crazy? I'm starting to get emails from people asking me about San Diego Comic-Con already. And
is the Hotel Apocalypse is this month, right? April?
She's probably, yeah.
I think it's
I wouldn't
April.
be surprised. Yeah. That's a good question. I should probably look up when that's going to be.
Fair.
That for people who are listening, that is the most stressful event of the season. And so for people even asking, like, what are your plans? It starts to immediately put pressure on us. I say all this because we're about to do a summer movie preview. And what we're going to do is go month by month, mention all the things that are coming, and periodically stop and get excited about certain things that we may have heard about, or in the case of May, a title that we're kicking off with that Jake is going to see momentarily, and that I will get to see right after this. In May, for your summer movie preview, let me give you the four big titles that are coming starting on May 3rd. The Fall Guy is going to be your summer movie launch, followed by Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes on May 10th. John Krasinski has If on the 17th, and then Furiosa, a Mad Max saga, is going to be May 24th. I think we can already tell you guys that The Fall Guy is a huge hit because they brought it to South by Southwest, so they're confident in it. They're junketing it very early, so they're confident in it. And they are opening up CinemaCon, the event in Las Vegas, with it. So all three signs point to this being a home run. And if Kevin were here, he would tell you that he got a chance to see it already and loved it. So super excited for that. It feels to me, I don't know if this feels this way to you guys as well, too, unusual as a summer kickoff movie.
I was just thinking that it kind of makes me happy that it's our summer kickoff movie, and
That's
that
about
like,
stunts or whatever.
Well, just this idea of like it's an original movie that's, you know, that I feel like we used to get. I mean,
based on a TV
original
show.
Okay. Wait, is it really?
Yeah, there was a TV show called The Fall Guy.
I had no idea.
You honestly didn't know that.
I honestly didn't know that.
It would be before your time. This is true. But Lee Majors was the Fall Guy. He was a stuntman who got wrapped up in weekly adventures. Yes.
Is he playing that same character?
No, I don't think so.
No,
I think it's
so it's not quite like the A-Team to the A-Team.
Correct, or even Roadhouse to Roadhouse.
No, he's playing the same. He's playing the same character, at least by name.
He's playing Lee Majors. Oh no, I'm sorry.
Colt Seavers. Yeah, he's playing Colt
Seavers. Correct. Yes,
Wow,
that is his name. And when they showed up, I don't know if anybody saw it, but when the two of them showed up at South by Southwest, Ryan Gosling and Emily Blunt were in the back of the pickup truck, which was the signature car from the guy from The Fall Guy. So.
Well,
nice.
Okay. Well, then I retract my previous statement about it not being based on. Okay, maybe it's based on IP, but it's based on IP that
I've never heard of.
Yeah, that I'm not as familiar with. So please forgive me for any massive Lee Majors fans that are listening to the show.
That's actually. I want to hear in the comments below if people like who else is learning this for the very first time.
Honestly, this is the first time hearing of this.
Interesting.
But and even in like the coverage that I've seen, like I saw a lot of coverage on the film out of South by when you and I were there, Sean, and I didn't really see any sort of reference to this TV show. But that being said, I remember when what was it, Lost City came out. a year or two ago with Sandra Bullock and Channing Tatum, and we sort of made that comment about like, they used to make movies like this a lot, and then they don't anymore, and it was such a refreshing thing when we got that. And it just sort of feels like in a summer that we've commented on in the past is very IP heavy.
Right.
Yeah,
that it felt like, okay, yes, maybe this is based on it still just feels fresh though. And it feels
fresh is a fine word. Yeah.
Yeah. And it feels, the chemistry between the two of them, I can just, it's
And
one of those situations
Leach is
where
always exciting. He always puts something exciting.
100%. And it's one of the situations, and this is such an inside baseball thing. Oftentimes when we do interviews, when we do junkets, we don't want the actors paired together. Oftentimes you want them to be separate because you get, it's better to get 5 minutes with two actors individually than 5 minutes with them paired together. And this is one situation where Emily Blunt and Ryan Gosling be paired together, I think is going to be better, because I just feel like the chemistry between the two of them is just going to make for a better interview, and it's going to make for a better movie. And I could see this being one of those like word of mouth movies that plays through the whole summer. Whenever I mention to people in my newsroom, and I often use my newsroom as sort of a kind of a, testing the waters. And Gabe and I were talking about challengers and how many people in my newsroom are excited about challengers. A lot of people, when I mentioned, I got to go to LA for Emily Blunt and Ryan Gosling, 3 or 4 people stood up and turned around. They're like, oh, Fall Guy. So, it's moving the needle.
I want to mention Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes.
Yes.
And my concern about this.
Ooh.
Well, Wes
Those are
Ball,
a lot of sound effects.
Wes Ball is the director. And I'm not saying that Wes Ball is a bad director in any way, shape, or form, but he primarily has directed Maze Runner films up to this point.
He's not Matt Reeves, is what you're saying.
He's not Matt Reeves.
I really like the first Maze Runner. I think after that, it becomes kind of stereotypical franchise.
Everyone was chasing Hunger Games at that point in time.
Sure.
Pun intended.
But, and in with all due respect to him, and with all due respect to 99% of filmmakers, he's not Matt Reeves, as Jake just said. So we're stepping down a bit, I'm going to assume, and I'm judging that on the trailer as well too. It doesn't look. It looks a little bit more popcorny than the other ones were, which I think aspired to. Yeah, so that'll be interesting as well too. So I'm going to go into that with some curious.
It's also they announced it's the longest in the series. It's like 2.5 hours. I think it's going to be strong though. The trailer did do it for me, I will say. And I remember having a conversation with someone at Fox about one of the sequels, because remember that trilogy I think is one of the most underrated trilogies, I'm going to say, of all time. I think that trilogy is phenomenal. And someone at Fox told me when we were doing interviews for like the second or the third one, and she said, you know what the hardest thing about these movies is? Every time one comes out, we have to remind people of how good they are. She said they come out and everyone goes to see them and goes, oh my God, this is so good. This is amazing. And it makes top 10 lists. She goes, and then they kind of are forgotten about. And then a new one comes out and everyone makes fun of it. And we have to remind people like, no, you liked all the other ones. So I mean, I'm going to stick with this series until they give me a reason not to.
This is something we're going to face in June as well too, at the end of June. And I'll let me read off the titles and then we can start here if you want to. June, we're going to get Bad Boys Ride or Die kicking off on June 7th.
That's
same weekend we're going to
movie.
have. That is we're very fired up for that. Same weekend as the reboot of The Crow, which we saw a trailer recently. June 14th has 2 movies, Inside Out 2 and The Watchers, which I'm going to assume is a horror movie. The Watchers?
The Watcher. That's Shyamalan's daughter.
Yeah. Ishana, right? Ishana.
Oh, yeah. Okay, nice. Wait, doesn't he have a movie coming out soon?
Of the show. Yes, later in the summer, you'll see on the list. Yeah.
Oh, okay. It was going to be April though, wasn't it? I think if that's the case, I think it got moved back because I thought it was coming August up soon,
now, which we'll come up to. Yeah.
Gotcha. The Bike Riders is going to finally get a release date. That's going to be June 21st. I believe it's Focus Features that's putting that out after it got some release date shuffle following the fall film festival season last year. Kevin Costner's film Horizon, an American Saga, Chapter 1, which if anyone's paying attention to our bet at the beginning of the year,
big swing.
The kid pushed his chips across the table.
Right?
I did. Yeah.
Between that and Madam Web. baby.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I need help. I need
these need to be
Horizon
masterpieces. 2 masterpieces.
And then the last one on June 28th is A Quiet Place Day One. And I feel like that's the movie.
Webb, you need Horizon to get like 112% on Rotten Tomatoes.
I really do. I need Kevin Costner to go door to door and just invite people to go see that movie. I feel like with Quiet Place Day One, I don't know if people remember how entertaining the first 2 were. And it's been a while since A Quiet Place Part 2. And so now we're going back to this prequel do you think we're going to see Krasinski and Blunt's character? Do you think they'll show up at all?
I don't think so. Correct me if I'm wrong, Gabe. Isn't it? This one's in New York. I think my understanding is that this is. I feel like this is them testing the waters of like what else can we do with this series outside of the family. And I will tell you that. Gauging, as we've already done today, I gauge people and sort of how, reactions and the Super Bowl party I was at in my newsroom and stuff like that. And when they showed the trailer for Day One, everyone immediately called it Quiet Place 3. And I was like, well, no, it's not. It's not Quiet Place 3. Right. It's a prequel. It's a whole, and then once I corrected them, no one went, oh God, that's stupid. Everyone went, oh, okay, cool. Like that's, because I think everyone can agree that that's a big enough story where if told it kind of like what they're doing with Predator now, where they're going to drop Predator at different points in history. Like if done well, these can be captivating stories with all of these things going on. I feel like it'd be nice if we went ahead and wrapped up the story of that family before we moved on, but.
Yeah, I think I've talked about this on the show. I have reservations about this because the talent that's involved is really great. The cast is really great. And it's the director of Pig, who, came out swinging, but young filmmaker, or young career at least. But the idea of going back to Day One just feels like, well, that's the movie that we saw. And
we got that's the opening 20 minutes.
That's why A Quiet Place. I mean, A Quiet Place has its own like interesting, creature that makes it interesting, but like it jumped ahead. Now it's like, okay, so is this 28 days later? Is this World War Z? Like as far as the action set pieces that we're going to see in the story that's going to be told is the beginning of an apocalypse or an invasion or whatever. Yeah, that feels like a story we've seen 100 times. So are they somehow with this great talented group of people come up with something that feels fresh? That's my biggest worry.
So I'm looking at the cast because you're right. Like we know Lupita Nyong'o is in it. Joseph Quinn, who was in Stranger Things, is going to be in Fantastic Four. They've got Jaimin Hunsu listed here, so maybe you get a little bit more of his story. And he's listed as Island Man. So maybe we'll figure out a little more about him.
Maybe this is going to be the people that went to that found that island from part 2.
Could be.
Maybe.
Yeah.
And that's how they're going to tie together. And maybe that's how the movie ends. Don't even get me. Dude, I got to interview Michael Emerson yesterday, and we both bonded over the fact that the Lost ending is great. And if you don't think so, you're stupid.
Fair enough. Gabe, where does Inside Out fall for Pixar movies for you?
It's not my favorite. It's due a rewatch. I didn't love it when I first saw it, and so I kind of dismissed it after that. It just didn't work for me, and I don't quite remember why. I've only seen it once. But I know everyone loves it. That's one of those movies where I'm like, I guess I just didn't get it, or I didn't give it a fair shake.
But do they love it in a like rewatch it a lot kind of way? Because I remember seeing it in theaters and going, oh, that was really great and super creative and really well done. And I literally have not had any notion to watch it since, as opposed to like WALL-E. I've watched WALL-E a bunch of times, and I've seen Toy Story 3 a couple of times, and I just there was such a gap between. I just oh yeah, that was really great. Well done, Pixar. That's amazing. And with no notion to watch it again over the last how long ago since it came out? 8 years.
That sounds right.
I rewatched it recently. We watched the last hour on I think Disney Plus. But I sat next to PJ watching it and watched him tear up. And then I was like, oh, this is a different experience right now, because it's very much about that, that kid and that age. And it was, it hit him in a big way. And so for me, For me, the reaction that you have to Inside Out is what I have to Up. I don't really get what people see in Up.
Dude, I'm with you on Up. Like I have
I'm in the camp of the beginning of Up is the amazing thing,
which is I think what, and I don't want to like put words in other people's mouth, but I think that that's what people love about it when they say they love Up. Like everyone always talks about the beginning half hour, and I'm with them. But once he like goes to the island and all that sort of stuff, like it kind of loses me, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it's kind of a wash.
Yeah.
And so, but I really, the thing I like about Inside Out too, and one of the reasons I'm excited for it is I like the addition of the new emotions. I think that they're clever emotions to introduce for a teenager and what they're wrestling with. So we'll see. I know recently a group of journalists got a chance to go out to Pixar and they showed them the first opening 30 minutes of it, but I haven't heard much from people who got a chance to see it. So I'm not quite sure.
I also hate when studios do that.
I want to point out in
Show
June,
me 30 minutes.
The Bike Riders is probably my most anticipated of the season. Because, well, I've said this before. I love Jeff Nichols.
You do.
He's one of my favorite filmmakers right now. I don't think he's made a bad film. I don't think he's made a bad scene. Like I really, really like his work. And I think this cast is amazing. And the story is really interesting. I don't know how, like, it's based on like a picture book, I think is where a lot of the inspiration comes from, and like an actual group of bike riders. And so it looks interesting. I've been chasing this movie as it's been delayed and moved. So I'm hoping it comes out, and that'll be my birthday weekend. So it'll be perfect. It'll be a perfect gift for me, Jeff. Thank you.
Yeah.
Is
I'm excited about that
it?
for the
My boy.
Michael Shannon?
Michael Shannon? Hell yeah, he is. It's a Jeff Nichols movie, Sean.
I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
I didn't see him heavily featured.
Yeah, so it's
sure.
Jodie Comer, Austin Butler, Tom Hardy, Michael Shannon, Mike, is it Fat? How do you say his name? Mike Faust?
Faust?
Oh,
Faust?
from Challengers?
Yes. Boyd Holbrook, who I also really like. Norman Reedus, who
great cast.
Oh my gosh, that cast is incredible.
Yeah, well, I'm excited. That's a Chicago story. That's a Chicago biker gang.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Oh, so that'll probably, you think that'll be big for you, given the cast at least? You'll be able to cover?
Yeah. Why we started covering it last year before it got pushed, and I actually even had Nichols was coming to Chicago and was going to do I had an interview lined up and everything, and then they ended up pushing it. But anyway, that's a little way of saying, I think it's going to play well here in Chicago.
All right, July. Only 3 movies listed here in July. Did we cherry pick, or is it? There's nothing.
Let me see if there's anything that I left out. There might have been some. There were a couple that were like placeholder movie type thing, like untitled Universal movie or something like that. Let me look at July.
All right. So if you assume that the end of June, if it's Quiet Place Part 1, that might bleed over into the beginning of July, we have Maxine, the third part of the Mia Goth horror trilogy. That's coming out on July 5th. But where's the July 4th blockbuster? Like, where's the
Despicable Me? I guess I left out. I didn't. Despicable Me 4. I guess I didn't know if we wanted to talk about that. Sorry for the fans.
That's fine. But as long as there's something, I mean,
yeah.
I'd be really curious if the industry
on July 3rd.
Otherwise, Tom Cruise is going to re-release Dead Reckoning Part 1.
And then I'll mention as well on the 12th, there's Untitled New Line Horror from Warner Brothers.
Okay.
Don't know what that is. I don't know if you guys have a line on that. No pun intended. And then Untitled Scarlett Johansson Channing Tatum film from Sony Pictures. I don't know what that is.
I do know what that is.
Is it an embargoed thing that you know, or is it?
No. I know that they were working on I forget the name of it. I don't remember the name of it.
If it's on.
It felt to me like a Netflix movie, but I guess Sony has it.
Yeah.
So.
Which.
Okay, so also coming out in July on the 19th is Twisters with the $.
Hell yes.
And then finally July 26th, Deadpool and Wolverine. So that's your Marvel dose for July.
Maxine. Are you guys excited for Maxine?
I am excited for Maxine. I was a massive fan of X. X was on my top 10 list. Wasn't as big of a fan of Pearl, just because I was honestly a little bit. I wasn't particularly really interested in. I'm a big believer that like horror villains don't need movies explaining.
Sure.
Like they're often like the more you explain, the less scary they are.
But how do you feel about it being this is now the direct sequel to X?
Yeah. So that's why I'm more excited about Maxine, because it's more of a direct sequel to the events of X. That being said, it's one of those situations where it's just like, my God, like after everything she survived in X, like she's going to be put through something again. And I think the understanding is it's like kind of, isn't it like 80s New York? Yeah, and she's like in kind of like when,
I think it's LA.
Oh, is it LA? Because it's like Maxine with like 3 X's. So she is sort of fulfilling her dream of becoming a famous porn star, which she really wanted to be an X. So yeah, I'm definitely more intrigued by the concept of Maxine than I was the concept of Pearl. And
apparently Ty West, I was reading today, has said that he already has an idea for a sequel to Maxine. Which, if the audience, if you remember, he shot X and then secretly shot Pearl, and then he's just been turning this little universe out.
I never saw Pearl. I didn't get a chance to catch up with it. I don't remember the story of X, so I feel like I need to rewatch it before Maxine.
Good.
Yeah, it's pretty great, and it has one of the coolest shots, one of the coolest opening shots in recent memory, where they're shooting the opening shot is shot through barn doors so that the opening shot looks like it's 4:3, like an old horror movie, and then he pushes through the barn doors and the aspect ratio organically changes and becomes widescreen. I legitimately, I'm not even a aspect ratio guy, but even I went I was like DiCaprio in the theater. I was like, I get it. Yeah. I get it.
And he came up with that on the day. That's the best part.
Yeah. Which is crazy. Which he told us on our show. Yeah.
Twisters is going to kick ass.
I think it's going to kick ass too, man.
I think Twisters is going to kick ass. I think it's just going to be summer fun. I think it's going to be, I think that, what the heck's his name?
Glenn Powell. Yeah.
I think he just understands how to have a good time.
Yeah, I agree. And I didn't realize that we all, maybe none of us realized it, that I felt like that Super Bowl spot unlocked this nostalgia for the original that I don't think any of us really knew we had. Yeah. Because I feel like the moment that it showed, was it Dorothy?
Dorothy,
yeah. The fact that people remember the name.
Yeah. Everyone in my Super Bowl party went like, "Oh my God, it's Twister!" And the fact that it's simply just called Twisters. They didn't try to make it Twister : the Breaking Wind or something like that. Like it's
that's the Farrelly brother spinoff.
That'll be the Wayans brothers that happens a little bit later. And then I'm all in on Deadpool and Wolverine. I'm with you guys in that I need this to become a Marvel movie that kind of resets the boundaries of what's to come, sort of thing. I also just want it to be fun. I just want it to be a good time. I don't want the necessity of sustaining the weight of the MCU to fall on the Ryan Reynolds, raunchy comedy franchise, but it feels like that's where it's landed right now, unfortunately. So we'll see.
I also need it to be more than look at all the cameos we got. Look at all that seems to be, and granted, a huge part of it is just because we don't really know much about it right now, but so many of the headlines are, this person rumored to be playing this alternative superhero or this superhero, or are they finally getting Channing Tatum to play Gambit, and Henry Cavill's going to play
they're just going to fulfill all the fan fantasies.
That's one of those things that it will be really fun the first time you see it, but then give the movie absolutely no replay value once that shock is worn off. So I need it to be more than that.
Yeah.
And we can say this because Kevin's not here. Isn't that kind of how you felt about Deadpool 2? Didn't you feel like Deadpool 2 was just empty calories?
Yeah, that it was just that it was really fun to watch it in theaters.
Yeah.
And then when it was done, once all sort of the shock was worn off, it was just sort of I have no initiative to watch that.
And Brolin was great.
And I loved it. I thought it was really funny. But I also liked the story as well.
We don't have a confirmed rating for Deadpool 3 yet, right? They haven't said.
I think Sean Levy has said that it's R.
Okay. Because I'm
pretty sure Sean Levy said it.
Because he did a April Fool's joke. Reynolds did the April Fool's joke for the first one where he said it was PG-13. And people freaked out, and then he was like, no, it was R. And I thought he missed this week with April Fool's doing that again because it's Disney and people would just believe it, And I thought it'd be so funny to do a callback to the original joke. But
I kind of remember Sean Levy saying,
I always thought it was, and then I was looking at it, and I didn't see one, and I was like, I just assumed.
I can't imagine Reynolds would get this far.
Well, they had already said Blade was going to be R, right? Yeah. Or that they were pushing it for that. So it's how would you neuter Deadpool? Yeah.
Right. All right, let's take a quick break. We'll wrap up August, and then I have a fun topic to throw
August has my most anticipated movie of the summer.
Quiet Down. Kraven the Hunter. All right, let's wrap up our summer preview with a dive into August. We have, so what is Trap? Does anybody know what Trap is?
Trap is the M. Night Shyamalan film.
Oh, that is.
Yeah.
Which I've heard has something to do with a concert, which sounds like it could be terrifying and make me give me anxiety whenever I go to a concert. I've just heard, because oftentimes whenever they release the initial synopsis of Shyamalan, it usually just says like a thriller taking place at this, and I believe that the phrasing of this is like a thriller that takes place at a concert.
Yeah, it says a father and teen. This is on IMDb. A father and teen daughter attend a pop concert where they realize they're at the center of a dark and sinister event. And sinister. I found it. Really
I can't honestly say that I love every movie.
It's got Josh Hartnett in it though.
I'm loving the Hartnett Azance that's happening, but I when it comes to Shyamalan, like, I'm always intrigued, like, because at least it's going to be something original, and he's like swinging for the fences, and sometimes he doesn't get on base, sometimes it's a single, double, maybe a triple, but like you can't knock the guy for trying to put out original content.
Also, how cool is it? Top of my head, I can't think of this. Jake or either of you might be able to. We have a father-daughter filmmaker releasing a movie in the same summer season. Like, when is that? There's a lot of like,
cool.
There's a lot of like kids that go on to make movies.
Put out a movie last year, and Francis is putting out a movie
this year.
That's the last time I can remember anything.
I think of another one that would be as close to that. Right. But that's how cool is that?
Ron and Bryce both work in Star Wars.
Sure,
that's true. That is pretty sick.
Sure. That's pretty sick. Okay, so that's August 2nd, August 9th, and on August 9th we have 3 films. We have Borderlands, which is a adaptation of the very popular video game. We have something called Cuckoo. I'm not sure what that is.
So this one I threw in there. It just released a trailer today. It's from Neon. It's like a horror thriller film. It has Dan Stevens in it playing like kind of a creepy Dan Stevens. I thought it looked really interesting, which is why I included it, because it wasn't on my radar until now. It kind of has that like Hereditary might be the wrong sort of vibe, but that sort of like creepy, slow-paced vibe to it from the trailer, at least. But I don't know much about like we don't have much about it other than that. But it looks good.
And then what is The Fire Inside? The sequel to Flamin' Hot?
No. Okay. Yes. This is from Rachel Morrison, who the cinematographer behind what did she do? She did a Black Panther. She did Mudbound, and then I think she directed some Mandalorian. Yeah, she directed some Mandalorian. It's her directing. It's got Brian Tyree Henry in it. It looks interesting, but it says it's the story of Clarissa T-Rex Shields, a boxer from Flint, Michigan, who trained to become the first woman in her country's history to win an Olympic gold medal in the sport. A lot of cool talent. I think Rachel Morrison's really talented. Barry Jenkins is writing as well. That's the other one. That's
wow.
The director of Mufasa.
Yes, Mufasa. Barry Jenkins' magnum opus.
All right, and I'm going to assume that August 16th is Jake's most anticipated film, which is Alien Romulus. Is that it? Is that the one that you're most excited for? Yeah, I know, Jake.
I just
really, because I kind of just feel like we've done this.
No, so dude, Fede Álvarez. I think is a brilliant horror filmmaker, and the thing that I love about the vibe of just that very quick teaser trailer we got is that there are so many small little details about the trailer that show that he's really hearkening back to the vibe and the feel of that original Alien. One of the things I've talked about, I actually really do love both Prometheus and Covenant, but it makes no sense to me that, like, even though they take place before the events of Alien, all their technology is like somehow better and looks better, and it's all very CGI-y as opposed to, Well,
it was shot in the 2000s as opposed to the 70s.
Well, that's like Rogue One, and to their credit, like all of their technology looks like it matches up to what Lucas created in 77. So it all has sort of that similar. And I like that Fede sort of went back to the drawing board of Ridley Scott's original Alien and was like, okay, it's got to look like it's the exact same thing. And he said that, everything was, practical sets and very little kind of blue screen or green screen or CGI sort of, set creations. It feels like it's very much as close because I consider Alien and Aliens are two wildly different films. And this feels like as close to a spiritual sequel to Ridley Scott's original Alien, which I deeply prefer than anything we've ever gotten. Like going back to the horror element.
I just feel like it belongs in a category of franchises where we're chasing the glory of the first one, and Cameron was able to make lightning strike that second time, but who else is going to be able to do it?
I just think the Xenomorph is the greatest movie monster of all time. And
that's a bold statement.
It's
who do you put up there?
Underline it and put it in italics, baby, because it's the truth.
What? Really?
I think the Xenomorph is always just it's the perfect monster. Like it's literally it's made itself impossible to kill, and that if you're in space and you shoot it, the acid blood eats a hole in your ship and sucks the oxygen out of the ship. It's just this perfectly created. Was it Geiger? Created the look of it. I think it's a beautiful monster creation, and I think
it has Kaylee Spain. Is it Spain?
Spain. Yeah,
Sean.
She's the lead.
Oh my God!
Oh, never mind. Oh, welcome to the bandwagon. Sean and I just spoke to her yesterday.
Yeah, she's terrific. Go see her in Civil War. She's phenomenal.
Oh, wait till we talk about Civil War in a couple of weeks.
Oh my gosh, that's true. We haven't had a chance to even discuss it on the show yet.
No. I think that'll be next week, right?
Yeah, it's got to be next week. Sean, you got to do the show from Vegas now.
Happens.
Yeah,
yes, I will. Yeah, that's true.
Jake, is it? Because I know Alien has a lot of like lore. Like there are a lot of fans that like go deep into the lore of like where everything is and how movies connect and when things happened and where the xenomorphs are. Do we know anything about like how connected this is versus it's just, okay, here's a new mission that's going to feel, or here's a new thing.
I saw an interview with Fede where he talked about that, like this movie could not have happened. It's after Prometheus and Covenant. And he talks about the idea that like the events of this movie couldn't have happened if the events of Prometheus and Covenant hadn't happened. So it's maybe it's not directly referencing what happened, but like it fits within the storyline of all of these things happened in the same universe.
Yeah, I got to rewatch all of these because it's one of those things that like I rewatch 1 and 2 a lot.
Yeah.
But then when people start talking about the connected nature of all the stories, I'm like, I don't remember where anything happens.
Well,
I'm just scared on a spaceship.
Sort of sucks. Did you ever watch? I don't know why he didn't put it in the movie. Ridley Scott directed and released a prologue to Covenant that shows what happens to the lead character from Noomi Rapace from Prometheus. Yeah. And it's all about her landing on that planet in Covenant and what happened to her. And it's a really great scene. And I'll never understand like why that wasn't just the cold open of Covenant. And I feel like it would have made those two movies feel much more connected in a way. It even
goes as deep as I think it's the first film. I can't remember now if it's the first or second one. But like I've seen people talk about like to these kind of details where people get, which is just funny for Alien because it just feels like it's kind of a standalone thing. Where they're all whatever planet they're on, they talk about the different bases that they're at, but they also mention the radius of like
LV-426.
They mention the radius of the nuke that they're going to drop and where they're going to drop it. And like people are like, that base is outside the radius of that. So you could go back and they would be there.
Oh, interesting.
And so like, I look at this and I'm like, well, are they scavenging at that base? Is this well after that? Is this?
See, I look for these are all things I look, honestly, details, if you said, Jake, you can only watch one movie this summer, for me it would be Alien.
Wow. I'm way in on that. Yeah, I'm excited about this.
You guys are way more into the lore of Aliens than I am.
I'm into Alien is enough. The teaser really solidified that it's the type of Alien I want to watch. Yeah, but exactly. Fede Álvarez, I think he's just so creative.
Gabe knows.
Okay. Fine.
Give me a t-shirt that just says Gabe knows.
August 16th, you guys will be fired up for Alien Romulus, and I'm going to have all my chips in on Horizon and American Saga.
This is why
Chapter 2, baby.
This is why he's rooting against Alien. He wants everyone to go see Horizon.
Even if you haven't seen part 1.
It's not a box office challenge. It's strictly Rotten Tomatoes. I just need the critics to be all in on the conclusion to an American Saga. directed by Kevin Costner. And then finally on August 30th, Lucy's going to hold that football and I'm going to line up and get ready to kick it one more time.
Have they done like a fast
Craven
food
the
type,
Hunter is coming.
Have they done like a Burger King style commercial for this? Like, are you craving some Craven?
Oh,
Like, have they done
it's coming. Dude, it's not even going to be Burger King. It's going to be like Arby's.
Yeah.
So let's take a hot minute to just talk about the Spider-Man universe.
Let's do it.
Because they've already announced that in October, Venom 3 is called The Last Dance. So theoretically, we don't anticipate that Tom Hardy's going to continue making.
This is whenever movies. Michael Jordan gets a symbiote or whatever. Is that what's going to happen?
Yeah, exactly.
And I took that personally.
But at the same time, Sony has either done too much to set up some more story in that universe, or simultaneously not done enough.
Yeah.
So they drag Michael Keaton over and they drop him into a Morbius film that nobody wants to see anything else from.
What do you mean? They released it twice, Sean.
They leave some alien symbiote in the MCU as part of the end credit sequence to Spider-Man No Way Home, where Tom Hardy is sitting at the bar with Danny Rojas from Ted Lasso.
Oh, football is life.
And then they put out Madam Web, which is a prequel where the only Peter Parker involved is newborn Peter Parker. And now all the chips are kind of leaning on Craven to keep the story going, if the story's going to go at all. I honestly believe that my good friends over at Sony have no clue at all what they are doing. And I'm hoping that they figure out something to sort of pull it all together. But I really believe it's like a rudderless ship. It's going to be kind of fascinating. And all of that being said, I think that Craven looks entertaining enough. I think you can make a fun story with Aaron Taylor Johnson playing this character, but without a Spider-Man, none of it is necessary.
I love that all of this like build up led to Sean going, looks entertaining enough.
Yeah, it could be fine. Well, Jake, when you put your studio's best entry is August 30th. That's a red hot release date that studios are clamoring to fill.
I don't know what to think of this movie. I like Aaron Taylor Johnson, but I just don't know. Is there a way, Sean, for you to sell me on a movie about Craven the Hunter that he's not hunting Spider-Man?
Yeah. And give me a reason why he should have his own movie as opposed to being a great Spider-Man villain.
No, he should be 100% the villain of the fourth MCU Tom Holland film.
Do you think The Last Dance is going to be the end of this whole we're going to make our villains heroes thing? Or do you think that's the cards they have to play?
I think it's going to be the end of it because they canceled the Bad Bunny film El Muerto. Mm-hmm. They don't have anything in the pipeline right now. There's nothing that's been written. There's nothing that's in development. There's nothing that's been cast up to this point. You would assume that if they were going to keep it going, they would be starting to ramp up production on one of the additional Sony Spider-Man movies, but they've all hit dead ends. Nobody wants Jared Leto to continue as Morbius. Madam Web is dead in the water. Maybe they hope that Craven becomes a Venom type success where they can continue to make Aaron Taylor Johnson Craven movies, but
I don't know how you structure this as a business, but I wish that, and maybe this is the plan after this. I wish that they would just spin off their ownership of these Marvel characters into some sort of sub-label under Sony and share ownership of that sub-label with Marvel Studios, and then just let it be in Marvel, but they're contractually are allowed to give some creative control, but also money, which is why they're releasing these and continuing to hold on to these rights, is because they want half of the pie with everything that has to do with Spider-Man. I just don't see why they're still doing it on their own after just doesn't like even Venom, like the first Venom did really well. And then the second one
made half.
Yeah.
It made exactly half of what the first one did.
So I just,
This also came out during the pandemic, so let's give it a little bit of a...
Okay, are you excited for Venom 3, The Last Dance?
Dude, I wasn't excited for Venom 1.
Right, okay. So I mean, even regardless of the money, I just mean creatively,
No.
it feels like it's just every one of them is like, I don't know if I'm ready to see. It's the phase 1 origin story all over again, only it's how do we make a villain a hero, but still a villain. Like it's that structure.
I still think that with one simple decision, you could save this entire universe, and that's just dropping Andrew Garfield back into it.
Yeah, that's true.
Either that or a live action Miles Morales, like one or the two. It's time to roll the dice and make a bold swing and tie that universe together with a Spider-Man, an existing Spider-Man.
Is there any like, is there anything that they're not allowed to do with Spider-Man, given that they have like some sort of tenuous relationship with Marvel? Because that's kind of movie by movie, right? As far as Tom Holland is concerned with his involvement.
I think when they renegotiated after No Way Home, he's contractually obligated to do one more film, which they would like to become a trilogy, but it's not guaranteed yet. But he's contractually obligated for one more film and an appearance in some other Marvel property. Could be a television show or could be one of the pending Avengers films. But again, all of these can be rewritten tomorrow if they wanted to, essentially. So none of that's set in stone.
Live action Miles Morales, I'm in.
Yeah. Gabe, did your theater catch the Spider-Man reference in Challengers last night?
Yeah. I was like, oh, come on, guys.
Yeah, whenever they did that, I was just sort of like, did I don't know, maybe they did it on purpose. I was
Sean,
like,
you haven't seen it yet, right?
I have not, no.
Oh, well, you'll notice it.
Is it lame?
No, it's just kind of
inconsequential.
It's more distracting than anything.
Yeah, if anything, it just sort of took me out. I was like, oh, that's right, Zendaya's in this.
They could have mentioned 100 different films, but the character mentions Spider-Verse. I mean, I don't know if that's a spoiler. The character at one point mentions the word Spider-Verse, and it's like, okay.
All right. I wanted to come around to this because earlier this week that we were recording, we got a teaser poster for Joker 2. And by the time that we record the next time, the trailer for Joker 2 is going to drop. It'll arrive on April 9th. It's going to be coinciding with the Warner Brothers panel at CinemaCon. So I started rewatching Joker for a piece that I did for our social channels at Cinema Blend about whether or not Lady Gaga's version of Harley is actually going to become Harley in the film, or if a lot of it's going to be in the imagination of Joaquin Phoenix. And I'll tell you, I went back into HBO Max to rewatch Joker, and I rewatched the ending of it. And then I just kept backing up. I backed up 20 minutes, rewatched everything from the time he appeared on the late night talk show. And then I backed it up another 20 minutes and rewatched it. And I just was
you could just
away.
Watch movies at the beginning.
No, I understand that. But it was like I was working and then I kind of just got sucked into it. And this happens. And I was blown away by Joaquin again, like just how good Joaquin is in the part. And so I went and looked up who he competed against for his Oscar, because I hadn't recalled. And I thought, oh, this would be a really fun topic for the show. Jake, do you remember who he went up against?
I don't.
Good. This is for the 2019 Best Actor Oscar. And I want to redo this is a mini version of our fun little Oscars in review. And I want to know if you would still go with Joaquin, who ended up winning for Joker. So your 5 nominees are Joaquin Phoenix for Joker, who ended up winning, Antonio Banderas for Pain and Glory, Adam Driver for Marriage Story, Jonathan Pryce for The Two Popes, and Leonardo DiCaprio for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
DiCaprio would be the only person I would even entertain the idea of. Maybe it should have gone to him.
That's why I find it entertaining.
It's still hard to go against Joaquin as Joker.
Really?
I was a huge Joker fan whenever it came out. Sometimes I feel like once a movie becomes so popular, then it becomes uncool to like it. And I feel like people have sort of, soured on or turned on Joker a little bit since it became $1 billion movie. If Joker had come out and made $35 million and like super underperformed, but everyone universally agreed that it was like this secret gem that no one went and saw, it would become the cool thing to like. Sure. But because it went on to become $1 billion blockbuster that everyone liked, all of a sudden now it's not cool to like it anymore. I don't know. I was a massive fan when it came out. I voted for all of our awards. I voted for Joaquin, and I don't think I would change my vote today.
I rewatched the scene where he meets Kid Bruce for the first time, and I still get goosebumps. Like, to me, those characters are still so significant. And so it carries a lot of weight for me. And Joaquin, as good as he is, but I really was curious about each of your takes on whether Leo would win you over. Gabe, where are you at with it?
Leo is the only one that I would consider, and to the point where if he had one, I don't know that I'd be like, have my pitchforks out for Joaquin, because I think Leo's fantastic in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and also is eccentric in its own way. But I think, to Jake's point about some people kind of falling off of Joker, which for me, after subsequent viewing, it wasn't as high as my first viewing. I was like, oh, okay, some of this doesn't play as well the second time around. But regardless of what you think about the movie or its story or its approach to its story or where it's pulling, directly its influences, Joaquin's performance on its own is wonderful. Is astounding.
Agreed.
Is weird and hard and different. Like he does all the things that are very flashy, but also subtle in its own way, that I think it's kind of undeniably a great performance.
I rewatch Hollywood once or twice a year. It has become a comfort movie for me. I think I've maybe only rewatched Joker maybe twice, and once recently because Adrian hadn't seen it. So it's not really a turn on and rewatch and experiencing it. And it's just so heavy. It's just like very rarely do I really want to go through that again.
I mean, when you get to the talk show scene, it's like, whew,
exactly.
Oh God.
And you could make a really solid case that Hollywood is top 3 DiCaprio, which is freaking saying something.
Sure. I like the symmetry of Pitt winning and Leo winning also too.
That would have been cool.
It's
that would
their
have been really
movie,
cool. And I think,
and we get them on stage for the next year doing something.
If DiCaprio hadn't had his Oscar already, right? Would you be veering more for DiCaprio should have won for that?
I think I think the Academy probably would.
I think so too.
Like
I think if I
they felt off the hook. They were a little bit off the hook because he had it already.
And it was fairly recent.
Yeah. I think I think that's an interesting point. If he hadn't won for The Revenant, I think, because remember, Joaquin kind of swept that. That was one of those races that were like, it wasn't even close with anybody. He won everything. And I think it would have been much closer between him. It would have been a much more interesting race had DiCaprio not had an Oscar already.
I feel like
will DiCaprio get a second Oscar? I feel like it's easy to say yes because, of course, like why would, but like so many great actors don't have more than one.
I think he has plenty of time, and I think he's always accepting interesting material.
I want to revisit your question though, because that is Joaquin's only Oscar though. So if he didn't,
exactly right. But he didn't quite have the narrative of overdue for an Oscar the way DiCaprio did.
I guess so. I guess you're right. But I mean, to be nominated for Gladiator, Walk the Line, and The Master feels like a narrative that could have been built.
Oh my God, he's so good in The Master.
He's fantastic. He's amazing. He's amazing in all of this.
I'm not even like a huge Master fan, and now I do prefer Philip Seymour Hoffman in The Master over. I mean, there's apples and oranges performances, but
sure.
But did Hoffman win, or he just got
Hoffman only won one for Capote.
The Master didn't win any. Wow.
No, it didn't. I don't think Paul Thomas Anderson is a Academy darling.
I mean, he got Daniel Day-Lewis his third or second Oscar
for
There Will Be Blood.
Okay,
his second of 3.
But remember, Burt Reynolds was famously snubbed.
Yeah, but the whole Burt Reynolds thing, a huge thing surrounding Burt Reynolds was how a lot of people believe he could have won it if he had played the game, but he he famously, like he initially didn't want to take that role, and then I think he had a lot of issues with it once the movie came out, and I think his behavior around that time. Anyone who's listening, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's always what I've heard, that his behavior around the release of that film and that role and that performance really soured a lot of people on his Oscar chances. But I had read that, and because I always love reading about Oscar races before I really followed them, and like what was the narrative that, when Sean, I asked you about, like, hey, do you remember, were people super into Gladiator? No, not in a making fun way, but like, was Gladiator the, far and away, that was before I followed. But I've always heard that Reynolds could have had it if he had played the game a little bit more.
Yeah.
PTA has 11 Oscar nominations.
And 0 wins?
0 wins.
Wow.
Bradley Cooper is looking at that going,
he has 3 for There Will Be Blood, 3 for Licorice Pizza, 2 for Phantom Thread, for directing and motion picture, and then writing for Inherent Vice, I love Inherent Vice.
I love Inherent Vice.
Yeah, and then writing for Magnolia and Boogie Nights.
Wow.
Inherent Vice is so underrated, or underappreciated, I should say.
That might need to be a rewatch.
I think with the way that you, Sean, am I off base? With the way that you like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Inherent Vice has a similar like fun vibe to it that I think is underappreciated.
And it is very much to borrow Kevin's phrase, don't try to understand it. You just have to go with it. It's just a vibe.
It's a vibe of a movie.
It's just a vibe. Like
I'm not even sure like that's makes a cop out of an expression.
Brolin in that movie, Brolin in Inherent Vice, when he eats the thing or whatever, and he's like, his relationship with Joaquin in that is so good.
It's tremendous. Yeah, I love it. It's a little bit like Nice Guys, but like on mushrooms.
Yeah, PTA's Nice Guys. That's a better comparison.
Yeah. All right. On our way out the door, we want to mention that there are 2 films reaching theaters, Monkey Man and The First Omen. Jake, you wanted to talk about Monkey Man. I don't know. I know nothing about this movie.
I'm seeing it tonight.
I just know that people are raving about it.
Yeah, I loved Monkey Man, a movie that's made, not that this is necessary, and I always argue that having background knowledge on a movie shouldn't be necessary for you to appreciate it more. But I mean, the fact that he made this on a shoestring budget, the fact that almost every day he was fighting to keep this movie from being shut down, and then you see the finished I mean, that in and of itself is an incredible story. But then you hear those stories and you see what the finished product is. I mean, from a first-time director, Dev Patel, I mean, just absolutely phenomenal. I mean, I get why people are making the John Wick comparisons. It is a very fight choreographed revenge action thriller kind of film. So in a lot of ways, yes, I get that, but it's also very much its own film in its own right. It's very much a snapshot of a culture and a time. I thought it was absolutely phenomenal. And walking out, I watched it via screener. I just was walking out of my living room, out of my basement. My first thought was like, oh, like Dev Patel, stay behind the camera, like keep acting, like dude, of course, he's a phenomenal actor, but like give me more of your directorial efforts, because he's clearly learned something working with some of the greats.
I saw him tell the story about Peele's involvement, which I just thought was a really cool story. He was feeling that the movie was just going to get shelved. They were done with it, but nothing had happened with it. And then he had started talking to Jordan Peele, and he like heard that he had seen it like 3 times. And then at one point he just called him and said, "Hey, I hope you don't mind. I showed it to Universal and we're going to buy it." And it's like talk about like, you're like, yeah, I don't mind. Sure, that's great. Sure. That's great.
All right. On your way out the door, let us know in the comments down below what your most anticipated summer movie is. And we will also continue
if it's Despicable Me 4. I just,
Yeah, there's like one guy that's like waiting on us to talk about Despicable Me 4. The story continues.
In the meantime, we'll be back with a new episode next week. We have a couple of hashtag if they happen.
You'll be reporting live next week.
In the mix, I will be reporting live from CinemaCon, so you want to make sure to follow me on social media at Sean_O'Connell, where I'll be sitting in the different panels.
CinemaCon is a big ruse for a bunch of film Twitter to just hang out in Vegas. I've never been, so since I've never
That's
been, I
also
just
true.
assume it doesn't exist. It's the Ricky Stanicki of film festivals.
Yeah.
I mean, come. You're more than welcome to come and hang out.
That's
You
exactly
would love
what
it.
you would say to someone who can't make it out next week.
In the meantime, follow Jake at Jake's Takes. Our good friend Kevin McCarthy is at Kevin McCarthy TV. Gabe is at Gabe Kovach. And I'm the show is at ReelBlend. We'll talk to you guys next week. Until then,
Ricky Stanicki.
Lee Isaac Chung. Do you know what he directed?
No.
No.
Twisters.
Ah.